All right, hey, welcome to another episode of Coach P's Perspective. I'm pumped, man. Today I have one of my personal wrestling idols on with us, one of the best wrestlers ever to come out of the United States, Coach Kenny Monday. So I call him Coach because he is currently a coach. It's what he does. When I was a little kid, I considered him a coach because I got to be at wrestling camps and he was at. But a little bit about his background, Coach Kenny Monday, and this is absolutely amazing. So was undefeated all the way through middle school, high school, 140-0, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Was an Olympic champion in 1988, runner-up in 92, so three-time Olympian, and won Tbilisi, which for those of us in the wrestling world, that is probably the hands-down toughest wrestling tournament in the world, even tougher than the Olympics a lot of times. So, Coach Monday, man, thank you for being on.
Appreciate it, man. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on. Yeah,
you bet. So let's start here so that the listeners can know more about your background. Tell us, like, where'd you grow up at, maybe some of the other sports you played, and then how you got into wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hotbed of wrestling back when I grew up. Yeah, I started wrestling at the YMCA. I have two older brothers, Mike and Jim Monday, that started wrestling before I did, and I kind of just followed in behind them. And but we had a really great program at the Y. I had a really good coach that had wrestled at. He went to OU, graduated from Oklahoma University, and so I had a good coach from the start and had a good team. And I tell people this all the time: I was not the most talented kid that was on that YMCA team, And I was the youngest and the smallest when I first started wrestling. I was probably about 6 years old, and so I was a small, weighed about 48 pounds, and so the next kid up weighed like 57 pounds. And so he was whooping me every day, right? So I was the smallest kid on the team. And so that's kind of where I started, and just kind of had to grind my way through it, just all those tough practices when I was a kid. It kind of taught me, just the meaning of not quitting, So, but yeah, that's where I started, Tulsa, Oklahoma, north side Tulsa.
Yeah, and then as you're growing up, did you do any other sports?
Yeah, I play everything. I played not everything, but I played football. Started playing football when I was just first grade, second grade. Played flag, and then went into tackle football, the third grade. And so I played football. Never played basketball, but I had a lot of great basketball players. And I grew up at Wayman Tisdale, of course. Went to high school with him and John Starks and those guys. And we had a lot of great athletes. And so I would always play basketball in the playground, or the summer league. I play summer league basketball, and sometimes, and so I made a couple teams there, but never could play during regular season because it was during wrestling season. So I played that. I played baseball until I think I stopped playing baseball when I was in the seventh grade. They started throwing curveballs. I was like, I don't want to put the time in trying to learn how to hit a curveball. So. But now after football and wrestling season, I was kind of really ready to take a break. I did a little bit of track. I was pretty quick on the track, but I stopped doing that when I was in seventh grade too. So after seventh grade, it was strictly football and wrestling. Okay.
So, and then I know you went to Booker T High School under a legendary coach, man, Coach Ernie Jones.
Yep.
So 140-0, that's crazy. So tell me a little bit about middle school, high school wrestling, and just wrestling under Coach Jones. Like, what did that do for you as an athlete and a human being?
Yeah, I've been knowing Ernie, of course, been knowing him since back in the Blue Tee days. Mm-hmm. We started wrestling. Of course, Blue Tee was the mecca of wrestling in Tulsa, and everybody, they were the standard. They had 3 or 4 teams, deep, and so if you beat a Blue Tee kid, you were doing something, right? They were so strong. But I never going back. I never had to really leave Oklahoma. It was so thick in competition, and the competitive the competition that we had in Oklahoma was just really, really good. We didn't have to leave Oklahoma to get better. The kids were so good. When I hit about the third, fourth grade, that's when I really started to kind of turn some corners and really start to kind of understand that this wrestling was a good thing, and I was good at it. I was winning Tulsa, and I won Tulsa National, I think, which was the Junior Olympics back then.
Yeah.
I won that my first time, I think, was in the third grade, and then fourth, fifth grade. And then I was undefeated from the seventh grade. I lost one match in the Tulsa National Finals when I was in the 6th grade. I was undefeated in the 5th. Lost one match in the 6th grade against a kid that I wrestled, going for my 4th state title as a senior in high school. Never wrestled him again from that 6th grade year. Caught him again going for my 4th state title when I was a senior in high school. And name was Jim Hickson. So I beat him like 22-2 or something in the state finals. But yeah, he beat me in the 6th grade. And then I was undefeated the 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, of course, then through high school. And so when I went to Booker T as a freshman, Ernie was a coach, and he had been the coach, I think, a couple of years at that point. They had actually won state the year before I got there. And so we had a great team. You know, Thomas Landrum and Rodney Hooks and Joe Leathers and Paul Parker and Thomas' brother, Edgar Thomas. And so we had a great team, and ended up winning the state 4 years in a row. And but Ernie was probably one of my best coaches I ever had.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so much just the technical side of it, but it was just as far as just the mental part of it, you know, just keeping my head right, you know, keeping me confident, keeping me working, doing the right things in the practice room, not letting me getting, you know, the big head or overconfident, you know, so he kind of kept me grounded, so to speak. And just a great life coach.
Yeah. I mean, and we kind of talked about beforehand, but the entire Jones family, just awesome, you know.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Over there running the Broken Arrow program now, but.
Oh yeah. Rodney and Biff and those guys were little bitty guys, you know, running around when I was in high school. So it's good to see those guys, and I keep in contact with them, keep in touch with them, but it's good to see those guys carry on that Broken Arrow program.
Yeah.
Now Ernie's back over there. Now Ernie,
yeah,
he's back with the boys now. So it's kind of good to see him. I don't know when he's gonna retire. I don't know. I thought he retired last year, but he hadn't retired yet. So
yeah. I don't know if he ever will. So yeah. Blue Tea days, man. So my 6th grade year, Tulsa Nationals had 100-some guys in my bracket, and
really?
Made it to the semis, and I lost by a point to David Prince.
Yep, David Prince.
6 or 7 times, yeah. And
so
I lost. Yeah, so I lost by a point to Prince in the semis, and then I beat someone else from Blue Tea for 3rd and 4th. So
right.
A couple Blue Tea guys, and then me and Prince wrestling in college together and being good buddies. But
right.
You know,
Good
so,
dude. Good dude.
So, Blue Tea was the real deal.
Strong, man. They were the standard.
Yeah.
You go. It's so funny because just like you said, you catch. It'd be 3 or 4 guys in your weight class from Blue Tea. You know, it's like they're like Russians. You know, back then.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be one in the semis, and then you beat another one in the finals. You know, so
yeah.
It was always the standard. You know.
Yeah. So, you know, and then for you, I mean, winning 4 Oklahoma State titles, absolutely incredible. I think you won a junior world championship in there somewhere too.
Yeah. Just to let people know about Oklahoma, we had probably, it was probably, 50 some odd club teams. You know, we had, Blue Tea and Whiteside and our club and Whitney Liming. We had some really good clubs growing up in Oklahoma. And I promise, the only place I traveled as a kid was to Iowa. Went to Iowa, made a couple teams, went to Iowa for junior nationals, and we had a couple all-star teams. And I think I went to Colorado a couple times. But those were the only states that I even went to compete as up in Oklahoma.
Yeah. So, and then you mentioned Thomas Landrum, the Pin King.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he used to always come in. My dad would bring him into Pawhuska, and he'd come in and run some practices for us and show us technique. Yeah. Of course, he refereed a lot of our matches back in the day.
Oh yeah. Yep. He's a referee. Thomas was just an incredible teammate because he had already won state when I got over to Booker T, and he was a senior when I was a sophomore. No, he was a senior when I was a freshman. My freshman year, and he pinned 36 out of 36 people.
Yeah,
he pinned everybody he wrestled. Everybody. That's unheard of. I mean, pinned them. Wasn't no tech fall. He pinned 36 straight people. I couldn't do that as good as I was my senior year. Because there's times where you can have the guy pinned, no matter if you don't call.
Yeah.
And you just don't get the pin. That didn't happen with Thomas. They had to call him pin. They were so flat. They had to call the pin. But 36 out of 36 people, man. It was an amazing year for him.
Yeah. So
Yep.
and he earned that nickname, the Pin King.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Of course, we went to Oklahoma State together, and he's one of the reasons I went to Oklahoma State too, because we were teammates in high school, and then he was there at Oklahoma State, and that's when Chesbro started calling him Snake, calling him Jake the Snake.
Yep. Pin everybody with the snakes. So
With the snake. Yep.
Yep.
He was the best at it, man. He was so good at it.
Yeah. My high school team, we're pinners, and we're kind of known for that. And
oh, really?
We snake a lot of people, and I got to give credit to Thomas Landrum all those years, him coming in doing clinics for us. But now I was going to ask you that, so what made your decision to go to Oklahoma State?
I was I didn't want to leave Oklahoma, so it was definitely between OU and OSU, and there was times where growing up, either I was both fans of both, but there was certain years that I was leaning more toward OU, and there certain years I'd lean more toward OSU. When I got to be my senior in high school, Leroy Smith had just graduated, so coming out of high school, I wanted to wrestle right away. I didn't want a red shirt. I wanted to wrestle right away. At OU, Mesker was at 142, and so I was coming in at 142, which I ended up getting too big for. But so at OU, they either wanted me to red shirt or wanted me to try to cut down to 134. So I wasn't doing either one of those, and so that was really one of the biggest reasons I went to OSU. And then I liked the coaching staff at OSU as well too, and of course Thomas was there. And I could go in right away and start at OSU because Leroy Smith had just graduated. So that was a big part of it. And then, I had some strong ties to Stillwater, just going down to watch the Oklahoma State teams wrestle. Myron Rogers was there, and I knew Myron and went to a couple of his clinics. And then, but I used to go to their matches. And then they used to have, which is now the U.S. Open. They called it the U.S. Federation back then.
Yeah. And
that was the first time that I got to really see freestyle. And so I was really kind of exposed to greatness early. That whole 1972 team, like Dan Gable, and I was 10 years old, Gable and Wayne Wells and Peterson brothers and Chris Taylor, Jimmy Carr, all those guys, I got to watch those guys wrestle in Stillwater at the U.S. Open. And so I was just blown away. I'd get their autograph. And so that was really when I kind of understood that was the pinnacle of the sport of wrestling, the Olympic gold medal. So I got to, when I was 10, I got to see all those guys compete, and then got to see them, in the Olympics. And so that was just like, that blew my mind, right? That blew my mind that they won a gold medal, and I got to watch them, and it was fascinating to watch. And so that's kind of where my Olympic dream kind of took off from there.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because, growing up in Pawhuska, we were an hour and 15 minutes from Stillwater. So, and I talk about this quite a bit because I now coach in Kansas, and where I'm at, well, there's no Division I schools in Kansas. We have 19 colleges with wrestling, but no Division I. Right. Everybody, no matter who you are, if you're a high school wrestler, college wrestler, whatever, there are times in the season where you're getting tired, you're getting beat up, and I don't want to say burned out, but you're just feeling beat up, right? I remember being in high school feeling that way. And then on a Sunday, my dad would be like, hey, we're going to go to OSU duel. We drive to Oklahoma State. We'd watch you wrestle.
Right.
Tell you what, you walk back in on Monday, you are ready to wrestle. I don't care what you felt like. You're now ready to wrestle. And I got to go to the U.S. Open several times growing up. My parents got pictures. I'm like a little kid. I'm out there getting all the autographs, and I got to watch you and Nate Carr wrestle.
Nice.
Yeah, which is absolutely incredible. And Nate is he's a great guy, man.
Absolutely.
Some fiery matches.
Yeah, some battles, man. Some battles.
Yep. So you end up winning a national title. John Smith. I mean, and Coach Chesbro is an incredible coach. So you guys kind of, at least like from my generation, kind of put Oklahoma State back on the map, where everybody was like, man, that is like the program right there where, we're just fired up about it. And I was also OU, and I'm an OU football fan, but growing up, I liked both. I loved very. Yeah. So, all right, tell me about, you finished wrestling in college, and now you're going to chase this dream of the Olympics, and, 88 Olympics in Seoul.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that like, man? What were some of the things that you were doing? What was your mindset during that time?
It was, again, it was just keeping that dream alive. I knew that, at the back of my mind, I knew that someday I would have an opportunity to at least, compete for the Olympic team, and I would be in the hunt, right? Because once I got through college, I knew the best guys that were out there. It was, Dave Schultz, Nate Carr. We were pretty much the top guys in the weight class. So once I finished college, I had that dream of making an Olympic team. I went to the Olympic trials in 1984. I was just coming out of college, so it was really kind of in between weight classes. I wasn't really filled out enough for 163 yet. I was still kind of in between. And so I was thinking about trying to cut down to 49.5, but then it got too big for the weight. Now, really, my senior year in college, I probably could have went 58. I was cutting a lot of weight to get down to 50, and really just trying to win a team title.
Yeah.
We're really trying. I mean, we lost to Iowa 2 years in a row. We beat them both years in a dual meet, my senior year, and turn around and lose to them at the NCAA tournament, right? So we're trying to win that title. But then after that, I went to the trials in 1984 at 160, 74 kilo. And, of course, Dave Schultz made the team and beat Lee Kemp off the team. And I got fifth that 84 year, lost to Mike Deanna in the semis in the quarters, because he had Lee Kemp the next round. And so I never got to wrestle Lee Kemp, man. That was one of the matches I always wanted, which I had. I never missed it by one match, because he retired after that year. And I lost to Mike Deanna. Then he beat Deanna in the semis, and then he lost to Dave Schultz in the finals. But then I beat Mike Deanna that very next year. I think I'm probably the last guy he wrestled. Mike Deanna from Iowa, beat him in the U.S. Open that following year, won the U.S. Open in 1985. And then once I won that in '85, I knew that I was in the hunt. Dave was the guy. Still, 84 Olympic champ, and I think that '85 year he went up the weight class or something. He wasn't in the weight class in '85, but then I wrestled him in '86 U.S. Open. He beat me. He made the team then, and he beat me in '87. He beat me four times before I beat him. Well, actually, he beat me 3 times before I beat him. And so I was kind of chasing him. It's kind of like the torch, like when Kemp kind of passed the torch to Dave Schultz in '84, then Dave was the guy. And then I kind of became the guy after Dave. And so it was kind of that weight class. It was just, nothing but greatness coming out of that weight class. And so, I just got better every year. Just kept getting better, started really focusing on freestyle once I got out of college. And that was really the biggest transition for me. Just trying to go from folk style to really focus on freestyle. So it really just 2 different sports, really. Yeah. And I tell you the truth, I never wrestled in the summer. Through college, I never wrestled freestyle. Never did. We just trained in the summer, did camps, trained in the summer, get ready for the next season. So I was not like these guys now that going to, Junior Worlds and that whole thing. I went to Junior World Trials. I made the team, but then I ended up not even going to the tournament. And I got sick and I didn't even get to go. So I never really wrestled freestyle. So it took me 3 years to really kind of get on that level. I mean, I had some gaps in there, and it took me 3 years, and I really wasn't ready until probably 1987, right at the beginning of '88, when I went to Tbilisi. When I went to Tbilisi in '88, and in January of '88, I went to Tbilisi, and that's when I knew I was ready to make the team and to win.
Yeah, absolutely. So Wide posted, my dad had just taken a picture. He was cleaning out a bunch of stuff, and he texts it to me. He says, "Hey, check this out." And the picture, I was getting an autograph from you at the Quest for Gold wrestling camp.
Right.
Before you guys were prepping for the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I still remember it, man. I was 9 years old, but it was you, Andre Metzger, John Smith, Kendall Cross. I mean, just incredible. And I went to the Oklahoma State wrestling.
That was Metzger's camp, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that was Metzger's camp. Yeah.
Yep. So I went to the O State wrestling camp every year from 1st grade through 12th grade. My dad would take our team over there. But this year, that was my first time to ever go alone to an overnight camp. And so my dad said, "I want to go to the camp." It was in Bartlesville, 20 minutes away from Pawhuska.
Yep.
And my dad said, "You can go, but you got to pay for it." Our high school principal was my neighbor. And so I was 9. I said, "Can I mow your yard all summer to pay for this wrestling camp? Will you pay me?" And she said, yes. So she paid me up front. I went to that wrestling camp, and it was, I remember me and my buddy.
Awesome.
Yeah. So got to go to that. I learned some visualization there from Andre. He would do every single night. I used it all the way through, through my career. I still teach
Really?
athletes, but
Really?
but one other thing I want to say real quick, Coach, and I think maybe it was after you'd won the Olympics. I'm not sure, but this is important because sometimes there's a saying, people may not always remember what you say, but they'll remember how you make them feel.
Right.
So I remember I was somewhere around that same age, and you came to Pawhuska to do a clinic for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I still remember it. So we took out the wrestling mats. We had them out there in the gym on the basketball court, and it was like a little break time. And so I went out, I was 9 or 10. I wrestled around with you, and I'm a legger. I remember like I got my legs in, you were rolling around, and you're like, hang on, cowboy, hang on. And I was so pumped, man. I wrestled Kenny Monday. And then now this is the crazy thing. Our basketball team, maybe it was like over Christmas break or something, but our high school basketball team comes walking into the gym.
Yeah.
I remember you said, hey, can any of you guys dunk? And they're all like, one kid's like, yeah, I can dunk. And you're like, all right, get up, grab the rim. And he grabs the rim. And you jump up and you put your whole entire arm in the rim. And I think everybody in the gym was like, I still remember that. I'm 9 or 10. We were all like, oh my gosh, like what just happened? And our whole entire basketball team was like, oh, they're going crazy.
Right.
So you are an amazing wrestler, but a freak athlete. Yeah. Hot.
Oh yeah. We should do that. Like I said, I went to school with Wayman Tisdale, man. And so I'd always play with those guys. They come in the restroom, I go out and I play with them, and I still play a lot. I still play as much as I can. Yeah. I was at Oklahoma State. I would do this drill, man. It was part of my training. And I would do shots. I would do 100 shots. And I'd sprint down the other end of the goal, full court, and I'd shoot. And I wouldn't go to the other side until I went sprint to the other goal until I made it, right? And so I'd shoot, get the ball, go and sprint to the other side. Shoot, go to the other side. So I would do that 100 times, man. 100 in this. That shit was, excuse my language, but that was hard to do.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Just going back and forth. And I remember this old guy, man, Frank Lewis, right? You probably don't know this name, but Frank Lewis is an Olympic champion in 1936. Frank Lewis, look him up. Frank Lewis. And so Frank, when I was training for the Olympic Games, training for the trials in 87, 86, 87, he would come down. And he wrestled at Oklahoma State, lived in Stillwater. He would come to our practices, and that time Frank was like 70. He was like 70-something years old, right? So he'd come watch our practices, and he'd tell me stories about when he was in the Olympics. And he was on the ship with Jesse Owens going to the Olympic Games. When going to Berlin, they had to get on a ship to go to the Olympics. And he met Jesse Owens on the ship, going to the Olympics. And so he'd tell me these stories, man. And so I was really inspired by him. And he's passed away now, but he would keep. One time he was up in the stands and he saw me doing this drill, and I don't think it was a pretty good drill. I don't think I missed 100 shot. I don't think I missed a shot.
Yeah.
And he like after he was like, dude, I didn't know you could play basketball. He's like, you didn't miss a shot. Yeah. So 100 straight shots, I didn't miss a shot.
Yeah, that's tough right there. I would have had a lot of break time because I can't shoot. So
you shoot, you miss it, you had to go lay it back up.
Yeah.
I took that. I did. I would do Jordan Oliver like that too. I make him do it. He likes to shoot too. So I just do the sprint. We do the sprint. He got to shoot. He got to make. He would do 100. No, he couldn't do that much.
Yeah, that's a lot. So, all right. So what was it like whenever you won the Olympics, 88, man? And so, I know for me as a fan, that Olympics still like absolutely kind of trumps everything. That one and 92 are both good, man. They really stick out of my head. So what was it like?
Man, it was unbelievable. It was just an unbelievable feeling. It's something that you just you kind of have to be in the moment to really see how it feels. And I'm so inspired, like just watching the guys compete at the Olympics. I was on vacation. I was in St. Croix with my family during the Olympics, this year's Olympics. And so we were watching it, man. We're just blown away. We're so excited just to watch those guys win. But just an incredible feeling. I think the 88 Olympic Games were kind of special because there wasn't a real full-on Olympic Games since 1976. Because they boycotted in 80, they boycotted in 84. The Russians didn't go in 84. We didn't go. No, the Russians didn't go in 84. We didn't go in 80. So 88, we had missed a couple Olympics. So that was the first Olympics in 76. And so it was a lot, man. It was really, it was a big Olympic Games, and so just making the team, beating Dave Schultz was just a special time in my life. Very, as a little kid, of course, like you grow up and you had that dream. When I was 10 years old, I saw Dan Gable and those guys win the gold medal. And so I was like, man, I came home that day after I saw it. And I'm like, Mom, I want to go to the Olympics. I want to be an Olympic champion. So all those things kind of flash through your head. When you're on that Olympics, that medal stand and they're playing the national anthem. So it just took me all the way back to the first time I started wrestling. Just being the smallest kid on the team, getting my butt kicked every day in practice. And that was the one thing that my coach taught me early on. Is like, man, and I was, of course, I was getting my butt kicked every day, and it was tough. And he's like, you just can't quit. Yeah, you just can't quit. You just can't be a quitter. Winners don't quit, and you got to keep trying. So that's what I did, and I kept doing that. It just kept coming back every day. I'm gonna beat you today. I keep coming every day. I come back, wouldn't quit, and again, it just was fighting and fighting. And finally, I started making those progress. I started beating that kid, and so I started beating the next kid. So I was just going up the ladder for the next kids that were bigger than me. Pretty soon, I was beating 4 or 5 kids that were bigger than me. So that was a lesson to stay with me for the rest of my life. But I thought about those moments when, I was the smallest kid, right? And I was getting my butt kicked every day. And now look, I'm the best guy in the world. And I said, it was just a great feeling, man, to know that you are the best in the world. And even as a kid, you really don't know, because you're not looking really outside of your surroundings. I didn't even know that they even wrestled in other countries until, I kind of got older. I'm like, oh man, they wrestled in Mongolia. I remember seeing this magazine, and it was the Mongolian wrestlers. They were like going through their traditional wrestling they do in Mongolia. They're out in the fields, they got these belts and that whole thing. But it was fascinating. They were wrestling in Mongolia. So it blew me away that they wrestled in other countries. And so once I realized that, I'm like, man, I want to be the best in the world. And so when you're on top of that podium, and you can say that I'm the best in the world. Yeah. There's not another feeling like that, man. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's funny you said that, because I don't think I understood that either. But at Andre's camp, at the Quest for Gold camp,
right,
he broke us up into teams, and we were countries. I still remember I was on Yugoslavia. Yep. I was like, I don't even know what is Yugoslavia.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. I remember. I mean, Andre was clever with that stuff, man. He was really clever. He was a good dude. That dude was tough. He was a tough dude to wrestle too. I wrestled Andre a few times.
Yeah.
He was tough.
Yeah, very unique style, man.
Yeah,
so, yeah. And I stole some of his stuff too. So we do some of his stuff too, some of his throws. But
no doubt.
So as an athlete, and I'm a big believer that principles are principles. They apply everywhere once you know them. What were some of the things that you did? And you mentioned it, like running the 100 sprint, shooting baskets. What were some of the things that you did that you would say is above and beyond what other people were doing, that allow you to become a great wrestler? But that same work ethic or those same things could help you to become a great student or a great, a husband or parent or whatever. But what were some of the things that you were doing that you really feel like kind of put you above somebody else as far as like success, because you were putting in that time or doing those things?
Yeah. I go back to just my foundation, the principles I learned at the YMCA, right? Just to never quit. Just my belief system. I think they kind of taught us a belief system that where you really believe in yourself. You believe in yourself first. You believe in your faith. You have your faith, believe in God. And then it just kind of, we grew up in the YMCA, was part of that Christian philosophy. Mm-hmm. But believing in your faith, and then believing in yourself, believing in your coaches, believing in your environment, your teammates. And so really it was just my belief system in what I was doing. I believed in myself, man. I learned the value of believing, of self-belief. Yeah. I learned the value of that early, right? And then so I tell kids this all the time, I don't ever in my entire life remember approaching a match not believing I could win. Mm. And I didn't win all those matches, but you couldn't convince me that before the match that I wasn't going to win. I mean, you couldn't convince me, because that's how much I believed in me, and it just never, that never changed from the time I started, from the time I finished, and I still think that I can win. Right? It's just my belief system, right? And so, but of course, the things you you do in your life, the way you live your life, and you're being consistent in your habits will lead you to that confidence as well. But so I just think I had a good foundation starting, and then from that point on, I was the kind of kid that I studied the champions. I always did from the time I was a little kid. If I'm at a tournament, I remember Bo Bushyhead. Bo Bushyhead was I don't know if you probably know, he's a little older than you, but he was one of the child prodigies that grew up in Oklahoma, right? He was a really, really, really good wrestler, and out of blue tee, right? And so I'd be at the tournament, and I would just watch. I'd watch all the champions, but I'd watch these guys. I'd watch how they warmed up. I'd watch how they approached the match, of course, how they wrestled. I watched how they treated the referees, their interaction with the referees, their interaction with the other the wrestlers, the coaches. And so I would just watch tendencies of the champions. So I was just a student early, man. And so from every time I would go to a tournament, I'd single them out and I'd watch the best guys. And I would always pick something from what they were doing, whether they warmed up, their stance, how they, every little thing, every little detail I would just watch. And I would just pick up from it. Right? I'd pick up from it. I kind of emulate it. If I saw a guy doing a farmer's carry or whatever, I remember the first time I saw a farmer's carry, I was fascinated. I was like, what was that? Then that became one of my best moves. I went back and I was like, man, I got to learn that. And I went to Myron Rogers camp, and then he was showing it too, right? So I perfected it, and I kind of made my own, So I was just a student, man. I watched the champions, watch how whatever they did, and then I would try to go back to practice the next week, and I would try to emulate it. I would try to do it, right? And so that's how I learned how to just pick things up.
Yeah, that's it's really cool to hear that, because most of the high level athletes that I've been around, high level businessmen I've been around, coaches, that's what they do. There's not this pride or ego that I know it all. They're always trying to learn. They're always watching the best, always trying to add to the game.
Oh, absolutely. Today I'll be in a room today, and if I see something, I'll go pick their brain and see, or I'll just pick it up myself and write it down, whatever, and I'll go work on it the next week in practice, right? I go show it. I go try to understand it, right? And so yeah, I'm always trying to learn from the champions or people that are successful. Try to pick their brains. So that's kind of how I did.
I've watched some technique videos that you teach your environments too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. I want to move to what you're doing currently, because you've been, you got done wrestling, then you were able to coach a lot of champions, work with a lot of people. Now you are at Spire up in Ohio. And so tell me how that came about. And then let's talk a little bit about, your vision for the program. Right.
And it's an exciting time, because I've coached on all levels. I've coached from, I ran a club in Texas where I was, coaching beginners. Went through that. I've coached, some of the best athletes in the world on the highest levels. And so now it's just, of course, I raised my boys up, and now they're, Kennedy's graduating in December, so he's kind of done in college, and Quincy's got 2 years left in Princeton, and he's kind of on his way. So when I had kids, I didn't want to coach at a college and be, out running around and missing their matches, and so I kind of designed my life to where I could be around the sport, but I wanted to be in a coaching environment where I could bring my kids up, introduce them to the sport, and kind of watch them and be a fan of their careers growing up. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do and what I chose to do. And so now, but they're kind of on their way. And so for me now, it's like, I think, and I tell people this too, I think now is really the best time in the history, in my lifetime, to be a wrestler. Just because there's so many opportunities for guys to learn. Of course, you got your internet. You can watch. We didn't have this, so you can watch YouTube. You can watch Flow Wrestling. You got so many different outlets and opportunities to learn and see wrestling today that we didn't have growing up. And so it's like now, I think our senior level is really good. I mean, these guys are good. It's probably one of the best teams we've ever had.
Yeah.
So they're doing well. So now for me, I just wanted to get back on this level and start to kind of reinvest and build kids back up and try to get these kids ready for college. Because I've been on all levels. I know what it is, and this kind of came up through a friend of mine, Ray Lewis. You know Ray Lewis, football player. So Ray Lewis, I met Ray when I was coaching the Black Zillions in Florida. I was coaching an MMA team, right, fight team in Florida. So I was there for a couple of years and met Ray at a car wash one day after practice. After I ran practice, with Rashad and Newsman and Vitor Belfort and all these guys I was coaching. So after practice, I went to the car wash. I was washing my car and I saw, going through the car, I saw this big white pretty Rolls Royce, right? Whose car is that? So I look out and it was Ray Lewis was sitting over at the bench waiting on his car. I said, that must be Ray Lewis's car, right? So I never met him. And this is 2013. I never met him. So I went over to him. I introduced myself. Hey, Ray, how you doing? Kenny Monday. I'm a big fan, man. Watch your career, man. Big fan of yours. And wanted to say, I just appreciate your career. And he goes, Kenny, what's your name? I go, Kenny Monday. He goes, Kenny Monday. He goes, the wrestler, Kenny Monday? I go, yeah. He goes, man, you're my hero. He get up and give me a big old hug. He goes, man, you're my hero. You're my boy. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, man, when I was in high school in Florida, and I was getting ready for the season, and my coach was showing me your videotapes. And he was telling me all about this Kenny Monday. Kenny Monday it is, Kenny Monday Olympic champ. So he was telling me all about you and showing me your tapes. And so he was getting me to wrestle like you, shoot my doubles like you. And I remember, check this out. I remember it was 90. I was getting ready for the 92 trials. And it was a coach from Florida, high school coach from Florida, called me. And I'd do some camp, I do camps and clinics all around the country. So this coach from Florida said, hey, man, I got this kid. He's a football player. He's a great athlete. But, man, I think he can win state this year. And I've been showing him your tapes. And he said, do you think you can come out and work with him, do a clinic and work with him? And I go, man, I wish I could. I wish I could. But I'm getting ready for the trials. I'm really busy. I really don't have that time to, I'm not doing any clinics right now. He's all right, man. All right. Well, good luck. And I just want to tell you about this kid. Right? And that kid was Ray Lewis. I had no idea, right? But I remember that coach from Florida called me. I didn't know that was Ray Lewis. So Ray told me this. I'm like, yeah, man, I remember that. I remember your coach. I remember you calling. And so we kind of stayed in contact from that point on. And then last year, I was at the Olympic trials. We were getting ready I was coaching Jordan Oliver. We were getting ready for the trials. And Ray calls me and says, hey, man, I got this opportunity that I think you need to take a look at. I think it'd be perfect for you. And it's come to find out. So there's a new owner just bought Spire, and he's from Baltimore. And so he met Ray through another business associate. And so him and Ray, they got together. And so Ray kind of bought into Spire. He bought a little small percentage of Spire. And so Ray had come out to Spire and saw the place and looked around. He goes, man, you need to tell the owner, he goes, hey, you need to start a wrestling program. And I got just the guy you should go hire, go recruit, go get him to come be the head coach. And he said, really? He said, well, who is he? He said, his name is Kenny Monday. And so Ray called me up and said, man, I thought about you. As soon as I saw this, but I thought about you. And so he put me in contact with the new owner, and we just started talking. He started telling me about his vision, what they want to do. Then so Ray was involved, and Ray was telling me about his vision. He said, man, I think you do some amazing things with this program. And so that's how we started. And we kept talking, and we finally kind of made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And so that's kind of how it happened. Yeah.
Yes, that's awesome. First off, Ray Lewis, you guys have that connection. Yeah.
Who'd ever thought?
I know. And Ray was a great wrestler, and that's so big for us in the wrestling world, So I don't know how many football players we've recruited because look at Ray Lewis right here. Look at this
picture. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I talk to him all the time now. We talk all the time. We just talking yesterday. His son, he has a son that plays for Kentucky. And they just beat who they beat? They beat Florida. So they just beat Florida. Yeah, he's all pumped. He's all pumped about it. We're all talking about it. Yeah. So they beat Florida yesterday. So he was excited.
Yeah.
That's how I got the deal.
All right. So they're at Spire Institute. What's your vision for the wrestling program?
Man, it's just an amazing vision. It really is. And it's really something that I thought about back when I was, coming out of high school, coming out of college. I remember Tommy Chesbro asked me one day, he was like, Kenny, what do you want to do when you finish school? What do you do when you finish wrestling? And man, I said, I really been thinking about this because I really want to start a wrestling academy, just a school, because I was always fascinated with like the karate schools. I mean, when I was growing up in Oklahoma, there was karate schools on every corner.
Yes, yeah.
And these guys would run a karate business, and it would be there forever. It was like 20 years. This guy was still running their karate business. It was very successful, and I knew that wrestling was the true martial art, right? Because I catch these guys on the playground, these karate guys, and right? They kick out, catch a leg, trip them. They couldn't get up. So I knew wrestling was a more effective martial art than karate, right? So I always knew that. But those guys ran great businesses. I'm like, man, why we can't do that in wrestling? And no one was doing it, of course. It was not even thought about in wrestling. And when I told him that, he goes, I don't know. I don't know if that worked, I said, well, it should, right? And so, but my vision was always to have a training facility that I could start a wrestler and build them all the way up to, through middle school, to high school, send him off to college. And then when he's done with college, he can come back and still train at the training center and get ready for the Olympic Games. Yeah. So that was always kind of my vision, to have an environment like that where I could have an academy, raise those kids up, man, and teach them up, and then send them off, and then, really teach them, all the fundamentals of the sport and the character of the sport. And so that was kind of my vision back then. And so this is kind of like the vision of that kind of coming to fruition, because it's an academy. It's a 9th grade through 12th grade high school, prep school. But then we also have, a post-grad program where if the kids aren't quite ready to go to college, they can still, train with me or train with the Inspire program for another year, post-grad year, and then go to college, right? So we have that opportunity as well. But then I'm open to run a kids club as well, and try to build that up, that I can have a feeder program come out of my club program. And so really it's a big vision. It's a big vision. Then also, we're doing events. I just signed an event that's coming in December. The defense soap. It's like a K through eighth grade dual tournament. It's like probably 12 different teams. They were doing it in Ohio. Did it at Cleveland State last year, I believe, but they were looking for a place to hold it. So I just signed them. So they're gonna hold their tournament at Spire. And so we'll do events, we'll do tournaments. We'll have training camps. I think USA Wrestling had a training camp here before. I think it was like 2 years ago, they had a training camp here. And so we'll do training camps. I think U23. I think we just signed U23 for next summer to have Aspire. So we'll be doing a lot of different events, a lot of different tournaments, training camps, that kind of thing. I really want it to be a place where we can hold, the Olympic training camp here, and we can hold events and duels and tournaments. So for the whole thing. So that's kind of my vision, to just really have an environment where, wrestling will be a big part of the program.
Yeah. And so I looked on the website, just at the entire place. It looks pretty awesome. So tell me about the wrestling facilities and weight room facilities. Like, what's that like there?
Yeah, right now, we're just in the plans of building a wrestling room. So they don't have a wrestling room now. So we got a huge track. It's 750,000 square feet of building. Yeah. Right. So from Olympic sized pool, got one of the best pools in the world, indoor track, outdoor track, football field, basketball courts, so it's just an amazing facility. And then he just purchased like 500 more acres around Spire, just around the building. So he's building a hotel, the next couple of months. I think I'm gonna break ground next month in the hotel. They're building, it wasn't a boarding school, so now it's a boarding school, but we're building a whole new dormitory complex that is going to be on site. So it'll be kind of like an Olympic Village when it's all said and done. Just because it's all athletes. It's just student athletes is here. There's no just students here. I mean, every student here is an athlete, and so I really enjoy that environment. And, we got basketball players. We got basketball, we got swimming, we got track, and we just hired a lacrosse coach. So we have a lacrosse program as well. And so we've got a big vision for Spire, man. It's gonna be really nice. It's all said and done. It's gonna be really an incredible environment.
Yeah. So everybody listen, make sure I'm going to put the link to the website on there so you can get on it, you can click and you can see, because I was looking and there was like an aerial view looking down.
Right.
This place is crazy.
I know, right? I know. I couldn't believe it. I've been all over the world. I've been all over the world, different training camps. I've never seen a place like that. And I didn't even know about it. So it kind of blew me away when I saw it. I'm like, man, that's something that we can really, make just a neat place for wrestling, for people to come to train and come to go to school. And so, I think it's incredible opportunity. It's a big challenge. It's a big challenge, to start a program from scratch, and build it from there. So it's a big challenge. I've never really done that. And but for this time in my life, I'm up for the challenge. This really going to challenge me, make me, dig deep and really, go coach, man. Go coach these kids up. And so I'm excited about the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure you're a person that thrives on challenges. Yeah. Now I wanted to ask you, and you mentioned it earlier, with your boys, I'm a coach's kid, right? My dad's in the Oklahoma National Hall of Fame, but you're in every Hall of Fame and you're an Olympic champion. So what was it like being a wrestling dad, and how was that relationship? And what was it like for your sons a little bit too? Was it extra pressure? Is it hard on you? Tell me a little bit about being the wrestling dad.
Yeah, first of all, man, I'm just so happy that I introduced my boys to wrestling, because we know what wrestling is. We know how the character it builds. I mean, it's the greatest sport in the world, right? And I love it. And so I'm just happy that I was able to introduce them to the sport. Then they became wrestlers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been fun watching them grow, and watching them go through the trials and the tribulations of the sport, what it the wins and losses, the ups and downs. So it's been fun to watch them. Of course, it's always been a challenge for me to coach them and try not to go over that line, right? And so my wife would always bring me back. If I feel like I'm going too far over, then she'll bring me back to reality, right? Because everybody's different. I'm different. I train different. I had a different mindset, right? So everybody's not going to have that same mindset, and so you kind of have to coach them where they are, right? I coach them up, but I can't do the work for them, right? I couldn't do the work for them, and they got to do their own work, and so that's kind of been kind of hard to kind of get that over to them. But I mean, they've had a great career. I think Quincy got an opportunity to do some great things this year and next couple of years. But it's always been, the pressure really comes from other people. Really, I never really kind of put that pressure on them. Mm-hmm. And my thing was always that we're doing the sport, so you're gonna work hard, you're gonna do right, you'll eat right, you're not gonna be cutting all this weight, and you're gonna do your best. You're gonna do your best, right? You're gonna do your best. And there's a standard that we set, just as parents. We set this standard that we're gonna be the best at where we can be, right? We're gonna put the work. You're gonna study. You're gonna do your work, and you're gonna just do your best. And so that's kind of the standard we set. And but being and I can tell you this one time when Kennedy, it was probably his first year wrestling, right? And so we were at this tournament. I forget where the tournament was. It was somewhere in Oklahoma. Tournament in Oklahoma. It was a pretty good little tournament. And then so Kennedy it was his first year, and he's going through the tournament, and so he made it to the finals, right? But I kind of watched the kid that was in his weight class on the other side, right? So I kind of saw who was in the weight class. So I saw this little kid coming up, right? that was whooping everybody, right? Okay, well, that's the kid that, that's the one kid that you have to beat, right? So I knew we would catch him in the finals, and I knew that the kid was more experienced. He'd been wrestling for a few years, and he was, I could tell he was more experienced than Kennedy. I knew Kennedy wasn't going to get past this kid, right? So we get to the finals, and they get out there, and Kennedy had made it to the finals and get this kid. The kid snaps him down and catches him in a snake and pinned him, right? And so after the match, I'm like, all right, Kenny, good job, man. You had a good tournament. So the dad had the kid, and he lifted the kid up, and they were celebrating, man. He was pumped. He was so excited. And he's like, pull his kid to the side. He goes, man, you did great, Johnny, you did great. Do you know you just beat Olympic champion, son. You just beat Olympic champion. So they celebrated that, right? Yeah. So I heard that, right? I'm like, wow. Now, the kid didn't hear it. He was upset. He didn't even hear what the dad had said, but I heard it, right?
Yeah.
And I knew that's just part of the deal, right? And I'm like, that's just cool. We'll catch that kid. We'll catch up to him at some point. Right. But yeah, that's just part of the game. That's the territory we live in, right? And so we'd have these conversations, and we're like, Dad, these kids, you're Olympic champion. They we got an advantage. I'm like, well, that's just how it is, man. Would you rather me not be the Olympic champion? Would you rather me not? Say, no. The advantages far outweigh disadvantages. Any pressure that comes with that's coming from other people. All I care about is you do your best. Mm-hmm. Work hard and do your best, right? That's kind of the standard we always set.
Yeah.
But it's always tough to watch a kid go through and have those disappointments and not, because I thought both kids they're good enough that they can do anything they want in the sport, right? I think they're good enough I think Kennedy was good enough to win a national title. He's beaten a lot of good kids. He was wrestling the kid from Stanford that won last year. And Kennedy wrestled him in a duel 2 years ago and was beating him like the first 2 point periods. He was ahead of him. And he came back and beat Kennedy, but Kennedy was beating the whole match, right? Like, dude, you're good enough to beat these kids, So when I see that, I know he's got the talent. Now the work is something else. You got to do the work, right? I couldn't do the work for him, but I knew he had the talent. And Quincy's is something. I think Quincy's good enough to win. I think he's good enough to win a national title. I think he's good enough to beat Carr. And so we were waiting on that match. We were headed to the NCAA tournament when the pandemic hit, right? So that was the year going to Minnesota. Quincy I think he was seeded 4th going to the NCAA tournament. And Kennedy he wasn't seeded, but I think he had Joseph first match. But Kennedy, he shows up for some of those matches sometimes, right? But they were both going to the national tournament. And so that had been the first time that both my boys got to compete in the NCAAs the same year. So they missed that opportunity because then, of course, they shut them down 2 weeks before the national tournament. So that never happened. So that broke my heart, man. That was heartbreaking for to not be able to watch those guys compete together in the national tournament. So, but yeah, Quincy's gonna do well. Man. He's really so he didn't go to school last year because Ivy shut down because they didn't have a season. They didn't have any sports, so he was home the whole year, and so he was Jordan Oliver's. That was his main workout partner. Was Jordan. And so they worked the whole year. Him and Jordan Oliver worked just for the whole year. And so he got a lot out of it. Jordan did too. There was some good goals. There was a lot of good goals. And so he got better. He got better over the summer. So I look for him to have a really good season this year. He's hungry too, man. He's hungry. Because the kid that made to the finals last year, Del Vecchia, he lost a car. Quincy beat him that year, before the NCAA tournament shut down. Quincy beat that dude in a dual meet. And so he was he's ready. He's ready to go this year.
Yeah. We can't really get much better workout partner than Jordan Oliver.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was. And just being a fan, man, I was a coach, but then I was also a fan. So I'd coach him, then I'd sit back and be a fan and just watch him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was some good goals. Yeah.
Really good. Absolutely. And then, for your boys to go to, North Carolina, go to Princeton.
Yeah.
That shows academically they're doing what,
right.
So it's not like it's just wrestling either, man. It's,
no.
Like you said, it's that standard, but it's that standard in multiple areas.
Right. And that's the way we said, that's the way my wife and I, we brought them up. Our main focus was what I really wanted to make sure that happened is when they got when it came time for those guys to make a decision on where they want to go to college, I wanted them to have options, you know, to where they can pick and choose where they wanted to go, and not coaches actually have to choose them where they want to go. I wanted them to be able to pick and choose where they want to go, whether it be Oklahoma State or Penn State or Ohio, wherever, Princeton, you know, Ivy League school, Harvard, wherever you wanted to go. I didn't want that to be off the table. Like, so if Princeton wanted to go to Princeton, you know, I didn't want them to think, well, you can't get in because you don't have you're not strong enough academically. So we didn't want that to be an issue. So that's the way we brought them up. We prepared them. So when that option came, I wanted them to be able to make that choice on their own.
Yeah, this just popped in my mind. Tbilisi, what was the animal fur that they gave you?
Yeah, it was a big. It wasn't. They said it was the bearskin coat, so it was like a big bearskin coat, right? And I didn't even know that I was getting the thing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was an outstanding round, and the only other wrestler that got it was Dan Gable, and so yeah, that was a heck of a tournament.
Did the Russians? And this is like faint in my mind, but did they have a nickname for you or something? Like
the guy called me Puma, right? He started calling me Puma, right? And this is just from a Russian guy. He was a 49.5 pounder. He was a 49 pounder.
Yeah.
And we hit like he was one of the best guys. I think his name was Megamonov. But he was one of the good Russian guys. I don't think he was like, he never made the team because Fadzaev always beat him, but he was like right there. Yeah, he was like 2 or 3 down. He was at a lot of the dual meets. And so one dual meet, we know it was a dual meet because we'd always go 3 dual meets before we go to the tournament in Blissey, right? And so he was at 2 of the dual meets, and so then we kind of hung out after the duels, and then at the tournament we kind of hung out, right? So we kind of started talking to each other, kind of was hanging out, and I gave him a couple pair of shoes and that kind of thing, and so we would just kind of jawing each other one night after the dual meet. And so we're just jawing at each other. Like I was telling how the USA was better than Russia, and he's like Russia's better than USA. So we're just giving each other a hard time. And I'm like, you're slow. You're like you move like a walrus, like a. He's like, no, you're like a puma. You're like a black puma, right? And so he started calling me the black puma, and so it just kind of stuck, man. He's like, you Puma. Like I'd be walking down in the tournament, he go, hey Puma, you're the black puma. He was just started calling me Puma, and it just stuck, man. It just stuck. And
I just thought about Prince and Tigers, and for some reason that popped in mind. I'm like, well, I know that
every time he would see me, he would say, hey Puma. Right. And so it just kind of stuck, right? And then so everybody would tell the story, like the guys from the USA team were like, they tell the story that they call Monday Puma. They call me Puma, right? But yeah, that Tbilisi was a tough freaking tournament, man. That was one of the toughest tournaments I ever been to. I mean, because it was like you wrestle. I think I wrestled 8 Russians in the tournament, and they were all like 1 or 2 points away from each other.
Yeah,
you know, but that tour was brutal. I mean, we go. That was back during the. It was communist days, you know. That was Russian, you know. So they didn't have the money they have now. They didn't have all the. I mean, you couldn't eat after 7 o'clock at night. You couldn't even. Nothing was open. And it was so freaking cold. But we'd have 3 dual meets. So we go to one city, have a dual meet on one night. Next night we go to have another duel. Then we'd have 3 dual meets, and then we go to the tournament. So that was like 10 matches. That year I won in '88. I was 10-0 on that tour. Didn't lose a match. I didn't lose in '88 either. I didn't lose a match. Right? So, but I started in that Tbilisi tour, and but yeah, that thing was brutal, man. It was brutal. It was tough.
That's amazing. I mean, for those in the wrestling world that wrestle fairly high levels, they know. I mean, those maybe aren't even in the wrestling world at all. I mean, and you can look now because USSR is not together, and so you have all separate countries.
Yeah,
exactly. If you look like the top guys in the world, like they're all from these Russian countries.
They're all Russians.
USSR, yeah. They're
all Russians. Kazakhstan and Ossetia, all these countries, yeah. Those are all Russian guys, you know. All they would all be fighting for that to make that one Russian team.
Yeah.
And so it's like to me, it's like in the United States representing different countries like California, New York, Oklahoma. That's kind of how they are now. Like how the republics is broken up. It's still Americans, but just from different states. That's kind of how it is over there. They're all Russians, you know, but they just different republics now, right? But they're still Russian. Armenia, all them dudes are Russians, man.
Yep.
And so that's kind of what we had to go through then. Just had to deal with, you know, all those different Russians. And it's kind of like it is now, like, you know, the games, Olympic Games, you got 4 or 5 Russians in the weight class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Coach. We'll always like to end podcasts with this, and you can answer one of these questions or you can answer all 3, expound upon as much as you want. All right. I want you to tell me about a hero, a highlight, or a hardship in your life, or a little of each. All right. Hero, highlight, hardship, or a little of each.
I had several heroes. I think, you know, man, yeah. Other than my family, I'd say Lee Kemp was a guy that I looked up to. 3-time world champ. You know, he'd have been Olympic champ in '80. We're good friends today, but Lee Kemp was a guy that I really looked up to. So he was one of my heroes growing up. I'd say hardship, man. You know, when losing two NCAA titles at Nate Carr was really, really hard. It was really hardship. Other than that, man, what was the other question? Highlight.
Yeah.
Highlight was definitely. I got so many highlights. I mean, wrestling been so good to me. I mean, I'm a blessed man, of course. You know, being married and having 3 children. You know, and my daughter is 27 now. She works for Penguin Random House in New York City. I mean, she makes great money and doing her thing. And she's you know, having a good life, and she's really good at what she does. She really is. And she's really, you know, she's really, people don't know her, but she's really, really good at what she does. She's a children's book editor. And so she's like, you know, doing these books and stuff. And so she's really got a great career. And Sydney is her name. And then, you know, Kennedy, you know, having kids, you know, Kennedy's a wrestler and he's doing really well. Quincy's doing really well. So just having a successful family is probably the highlight of my life. I love them to death, but that's kind of a highlight. You know, then my mom and dad, you know, they're both 83 years old. They're still doing really well. And I mean, my mother was really the one that's kind of behind my belief system and why I believe like I do. And the confidence that I have comes from my mother. I mean, she always poured into me and made me believe that no one should ever believe in me more than me.
Yeah.
No one should ever believe in me more than myself, right? And so that's the confidence that I have, and that you know, it kind of carries through my life, through my kids' life, and through the kids I coach. I pour that into them as well. But you know, the highlight, you know, I've had many. You know, it's kind of hard to point one. Of course, winning Olympic gold medals on my lifelong dream. So that's probably the biggest highlight of my life.
Yeah. So your folks still live in Tulsa?
No, actually, my dad does. My dad still lives in Tulsa, and then they're not together anymore. But my mother lives in Raleigh. I moved down I lived in, you know, Chapel Hill for 5 years, and so I have 2 brothers that live in Raleigh, and so I moved my mother to Raleigh, and then I took off and went to Ohio. But no, she still lives in Raleigh, into Raleigh, man, and she's so smart, and she's still doing really well, doing really well. But she is the one that's kind of behind my belief system, man.
Yeah.
She's really very, very confident and very kind of taught that to me. So they're doing well. My dad was, you know, he's probably one of the coaches growing up. My dad didn't wrestle, but he just was like one of the guys that like kept my program together. I mean, there were a lot of kids that came up in our program, you know, the Thomas Landon and these guys, and my dad would go pick them up. He'd take them to practice, take them home, he'd feed them, clothe them. And so that really kind of taught me a lot about just humanity, you know, and how, you know, it takes a village to raise kids sometimes, you know. So really learned a lot from that standpoint.
Yeah, that's huge, man. I mean, a lot of times people don't realize coaches, whether it's a kids club coach,
right,
or high school coach, whatever, that they're doing those behind the scenes, man. They're
Oh,
buying
yeah.
kids tennis shoes, they're feeding them
Yeah.
dinner, taking them
Yeah.
home,
Yeah.
so yeah, and it's
Yeah.
those dads
Yeah.
and coaches that make it
Oh,
happen.
yeah. Oh, it's crazy. So that's come, grew up in Oklahoma, man, in Tulsa, north side Tulsa. There was a lot of kids that just, the parents just wasn't around, and
Yep.
my parents would, and I didn't understand it, I didn't really understand it as much as I do now. But back then I didn't, but I kind of saw it. And so I understood it later, but now I really know what they were doing. I mean, they were really just raising these kids, man, and giving them every opportunity to do better in their lives and teaching them, and showing them a different way, right? Catching these kids out of some really tough environments they grew up in, and we get them in and teach them how to wrestle, and we had some really good kids that came up through our system.
Yeah, teach them how to wrestle and teach them all those things that, like you mentioned, they come along with wrestling, man. That light is in life.
Yeah. I mean, just teaching them, just your basic stuff. Showing up on time, being responsible to the team, and being respectful to your competitors, and being respectful to parents and to adults. And so just a basic stuff, man. And making sure you're clean and you shower and you show up, and looking good. And so a lot of life lessons that were taught early on to my parents, and then they just kind of spread it throughout the community, man. So it was really, really good to see it. Really good to see it.
Yeah. So, all right, I know you got a big challenge with Spire, and one
Yeah.
that you're looking forward to, and you're taking head on. I want to throw one more out there. I didn't know your daughter worked for Penguin Random House. So once you get this rolling, when are we going to see your book?
We're in the process. We're in the process.
Okay.
Yep. My wife and I right now, we're doing a joint book right now. We're kind of talking about our family structure and kind of things, how we brought our kids up, and the kind of the fundamentals of raising a family. And so we're in the process of doing that right now. Yeah. And then I've got a couple things that I'm working on. I'm working on some a children's book that's going to help, kind of help young parents that are raising their kids up in the sport of wrestling, and just kind of, just the fundamentals of managing your kid. I remember talking, of course, coming through, just having that platform of Olympic champion. I remember talking to David Taylor's dad when he was like 8, 9 years old, coming to Tulsa Nationals, right? And caught him a couple of times. He'd come over, we would talk, and Dave would come over, we'd talk, and he would ask me questions about how to raise his kid. I mean, just kind of as far as wrestling and what he should do, and he knew the kid was serious about the sport and how I should raise him up. And I kind of gave him some pointers on what he should do and how what I did growing up. And so it's really fascinating. It's really good, and I'm proud to see these guys on this level now that are winning and wrestling for world titles. Man, it's so fun. Just being able to see those kids grow from 9 years old to where they are now, man. It's I really feel good about that.
Yeah. Well, I have 4 kiddos of my own, so I'm looking forward to those books, man, so I can get them and glean some of that wisdom too. So
absolutely, man. Got a real nice documentary. Rudis, I don't know if you saw the promo, but Rudis is doing a documentary on my story, and not the whole story, but just kind of my beginning of wrestling. Kind of goes back to the YMCA and where I started. And there's a street the YMCA where I started wrestling. That street is the Kenny Monday place. That street is named after me, where I started wrestling. So Rudis did a really, really good job of, documenting my career all the way through wrestling shows and the whole DuPont thing. And so it was, they did a good job, man. It's gonna be really, really nice. So that should come out this month.
Okay.
Rudis is doing it.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing that. Yeah. You're up in Ohio where Rudis is at too. So excellent. So, all right, Coach. Well, where can we follow you on social media? Because I'll put your social media. I'll get that stuff and put it in the show notes so people can jump on and follow you. And
I think
as well as your school's website.
Yeah, I think Boot Monday is my Instagram. Boot Monday, Kenny Monday. On my Twitter is just Kenny Monday.
Okay.
But Boot Monday, and Boo is my nickname, right? And so Boot Monday on Instagram.
Okay, cool. I'll put that in the link so people can follow you. And again, thank you so much for being on. I'm honored.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. It's pretty cool when you get to jump on and see somebody that really inspired, like you really inspired my career growing up. So to get to talk to you and interview you as an adult now, it's amazing.
Well, good, man. That's good. Yeah, you go to our website, go to Spire, spireacademy.com, or .org, I mean, and you can find everything there, man. And if you got anybody that they want to be coached by Kenny Monday, send them my way. Because we're gonna create just an incredible environment. Yeah, and so kids will really love to come here and train. So,
Yep.
got anybody interested, send them my way.
All right. Yep. I know you guys are going to create an elite academy up there. So it's going to be amazing.
Yep.
So, well, again, thank you, Coach. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Good luck.
Yes,
Take
sir.
care.
All right. Everybody, it's been another episode of Coach P's Perspective. May God bless you, smile upon you, give you peace.
Yep.
Out.